Sexual violence and forced marriage spike in Sudan's civil war. We speak with a survivor of forced marriage who escaped the country's war-torn capital, Khartoum.
President Bola Tinubu praises development strides in Enugu State as he commissions several projects there.
In Ghana, journalists trying to help stop Africa's $90 billion loss to financial crime. They learn to follow the money and expose how such crimes are connected to other illegal activities.
Hello, and thanks for tuning in to the show that goes around the continent to bring you stories near and far. I'm Joke Rogers at Channels Television here in Lagos, and I'm joined by Vincent Makori from the Voice of America in Washington, D.C.
Thanks, I'm Vincent Makori at the Voice of America. Happy to be with you again for another edition of Africa 54. Let's start off with the latest from Nigeria. Joke Rogers in Lagos brings you that story.
President Bola Tinubu has commended the Enugu State Governor, Mr. Peter Mba, over his development strides, saying that the governor has done a fantastic job so far. The president gave the commendation during a one-day visit to Enugu State on January 4, where he commissioned some of the numerous developmental projects executed under the Mba administration.
Grand Commander of the Federal Republic.
President Bola Tinubu arrives at the Government Technical College in Enugu metropolis to symbolically commission 30 completed Enugu smart green schools out of 260 being built. The president then commissions the schools while commending the governor's initiative and commitment to sound and quality education.
And when we have characters and committed leaders taking Enugu on the path of 21st century development, greater heights, building our tomorrow today, I cannot forget the sight of those small children as I just met in their great 21st century school.
Similarly, the president is impressed by the completion of 90 urban roads in Enugu City, the multi-auditorium Enugu International Conference Center, and a cutting-edge command and control center.
This command and control center, a center that is designed to help us respond and to fight crime, nip it in the bud with the 21st century technology, with all the AI and thermal equipment.
I could see the vehicles, gadgets with 21st century technology. Yes, we indeed are planning for today, tomorrow, and the future of Enugu.
Both leaders then joined the Southeast stakeholders for their first interaction in the current administration.
I salute Peter Mba for his commitment to development. You've built up a good team, and you are demonstrating that commitment, irrevocable commitment to human development.
The stakeholders highlighted the Eastern Rail Line, Anambra River Basin, amongst other things, as issues of regional concern, which the president already is committed to.
Thank you very much.
Well, joining us to discuss this development in Enugu State is Gerald Otiji, the Commissioner for Works. Thank you so much for joining us on the program today.
Thank you.
So, President Tinubu commissioned projects in Enugu State undertaken by Governor Peter Mba. How do the people respond to the president's visit?
The response was very positive. The people were excited to see their president. I think it's been some years now since a sitting president visited the state. on a working visit. And people lined up the street, waving Nigerian flags and cheering Mr. President when he came. It was very positive. It was people were excited to see him.
And how strategic are these projects to the Enugu people?
The response was very positive. It energized the people. The governor was happy, the president, to see the president, and all the members of Executive Council and people of Enugu were happy to have Mr. President on our soil.
Right, and for the president to come all the way from Abuja to Enugu to commission these projects, they must be very important to Enugu State. But how strategic are they to the Enugu people?
Yeah, very strategic, and also, in my own part, is a way to score yourself. If you look at the projects that Mr. President commissioned, ranging from roads, schools, primary healthcare, international conference center, which has enormous economic value, and then security, commissioning our security network, the command and control center. I think ours is ranked one of the best in sub-Saharan Africa, if not the best. So they're very strategic to our development as a people. The agenda of His Excellency Dr. Peter Ndubisi in moving our economy from $4 billion that it is right now to $40 billion. It's like my governor said, these projects are just connecting the dots to achieve that milestone.
So what's the plan, and what does the government see in the future? You just spoke about the governor's activities and his policies boosting the economy of Enugu State. So what's the projection into the future? How much do you expect the state's IGR to be boosted?
Right now, we're even feeling the growth of the economy down to the grassroots level. The governor, in his campaign promise, said that within the next 4 to 8 years, to grow the economy from $4.4 billion to $30 billion. That is the projection, at the least. But from what I am seeing on the ground right now, if everything being equal and the growth is going the way we're moving, we should be able to reach that milestone. Let me put it in perspective. At the moment, we are engaging to build, in Enugu State, we have 260 electoral wards. We're doing Enugu Green Smart School in each ward. That's 260 schools. We are also engaging to build 260 primary health centers in each ward, 260 farm estates in these wards. That is bringing the economy of the rural areas in every ward, not just in the urban areas, to be in the forefront of our economic development. And that is our strategy, the governor's strategy, to scale up our IGR and our economy. And if the security of the state is not intact, most of this might be just mere dreams. That's why the governor manifesto and policy is to tackle security head on. And then that's why we invested heavily on security of our state. And every part of the state, through our security command and control structure and the security posture, I think we are getting to a very secure state. And with that, hitting the 30 billion economy will be a question of time.
And on that day, January 4, after the tour of the projects in the state, President Bola Tinubu commended the governor for his impact so far. What does this signify to the governor?
Well, I had a meeting with the governor after the Mr. President's visit, and he said, I quote, "We are now on the searchlight and the expectations are higher than it was before. So we have to double down in our efforts."
More work for, doing something successful. I do wish you all the best and more successes in your various interventions and projects in the future in Enugu State. Thank you for joining us again on the program today, Commissioner for Works, Gerald Otiji.
So much, and thank you for having me.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. After the break, Donald Trump's plan to grow the U.S. economy by drilling for more oil. Welcome back to Africa 54. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. Donald Trump promises to reverse Biden administration's efforts to fight climate change and says he will grow the U.S. economy by drilling for more oil. VOA correspondent Scott Stearns has our story.
Donald Trump campaigned on boosting U.S. fossil fuels.
We will quickly become energy independent, and we will frack, 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 and drill, baby, drill. We're going to drill, baby, drill, and frack, frack, frack.
Joe Biden's administration invested in building out the nation's electric vehicle charging network and worked with congressional Democrats to create a national service program on climate change as part of what Biden called a Green New Deal. Trump says that's a Green New Scam that he will end, along with electric vehicle subsidies and tougher gasoline engine emission standards. In his first term, Trump withdrew from an international climate treaty.
The Paris Climate Accord is simply the latest example of Washington entering into an agreement that disadvantages the United States.
Trump supporters in Congress say his commitment to oil and natural gas in a second term positions U.S. producers to capitalize on growing global energy demands without the limits of climate deals.
The president has broad power to repeal through the regulatory process proposed and existing regulations, including for things like power plant emissions of methane, for vehicle emissions as well. However, at the same time, consumers can choose to purchase a low emissions vehicle. States can choose to enact their own regulations about emissions, as we see California do. So again, I think while the federal government is an incredibly powerful tool, that doesn't mean that we're at the end of climate action in the US.
Most of those battery factories are built out in states with Republican governors, and they don't want those factories unplugged from their economies, and they don't want those workers laid off. They want this prosperity to continue.
Industry analysts say Trump's commitment to deregulating American business may end up helping renewable energy by speeding the permitting of new transmission lines. Scott Stearns, VOA News.
The Chinese Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Wang Yi, has restated his country's commitment to safeguarding Africa's security and sovereignty by opposing foreign interference in the internal affairs of African countries. Speaking in company of Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Tuga, in the State House in Abuja, after meeting with President Bola Tinubu, the Chinese minister said China will provide Africa with a grant of 1 billion yuan for military assistance, among other things.
President Bola Tinubu arriving for the meeting with a delegation led by the Chinese Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Wang Yi. After the closed-door meeting, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Tuga, leads his counterpart to a joint press briefing. According to the ambassador, the meeting seeks to deepen the relationship between both countries.
Nigeria remains committed to the implementation of the agreements and MOUs and also, of course, to, just like Minister Wang said, to ensure that we expand this upgraded relationship, which is the comprehensive strategic partnership.
The Chinese minister, in his remarks, touched on the financial cooperation between both countries.
The renewal of the currency swap agreement shows how well we have carried out our financial cooperation and sustained its momentum. As with regard to Nigeria's wish to increase the line of the currency swap, we will favorably study and consider the issue. Our cooperation is going well in many ways in terms of finance. For instance, we welcome Nigeria to issue panda bonds in China because we have full confidence in Nigeria's credibility.
A position Nigeria supports.
So private military companies, as far as we're concerned, it doesn't matter whether they're from north, south, east, west. We don't think it is going to provide the panacea. But when you work with us, then we're able to lead others in solving the problem. And also, we want to work with countries like China in domesticating production of military equipment, both kinetic and non-kinetic.
The Chinese minister is on a 2-day visit to Nigeria and is the first foreign envoy to visit the president this year. From the presidential villa, Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
Welcome back to Africa 54. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. Rights groups are sounding the alarm about a spike in sexual violence and forced marriage in Sudan's civil war. In this report from Port Sudan, Henry Wilkins meets a woman who escaped the country's war-torn capital, Khartoum, after a paramilitary commander tried to force her into marriage.
Noor al-Huda Afif al-Din fled Khartoum, Sudan, around June this year. When the fighting started in April 2023, she decided at first to weather it out in the capital city. But her life with her husband and baby soon began to fall apart.
We had no electricity, and we were sitting in darkness when my sister switched on the flashlight on her cell phone. That's when they started shooting at us. Literally, the facade of our home broke into pieces.
But getting caught in the crossfire was not the only danger she encountered. She also became a victim of an attempted forced marriage. The son of a commander in the Paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, one of the warring parties that has occupied Khartoum for most of the war, began visiting her at her home and insisting they get married. Her husband went missing one day and she later learned was imprisoned by the RSF. He has since been released.
The commander's son even dared to suggest that since my husband was missing, he should be declared dead, and implied he might be involved in his disappearance. I told him I'm married.
Despite her protest, she was taken away from her family and forced to live in the house of the RSF commander, who also tried to force her into marrying his son. She says she was subjected to emotional and physical abuse at the house. Rights groups say countless women have become victims of forced marriage and other forms of sexual violence in Sudan's war.
So we documented cases of rape, of gang rape. A lot of the rape by the RSF was happening in the context of people's homes, in front of relatives.
Al-Din says other women living in the commander's house felt sympathy for her and helped her escape one night through a gap in a wire fence. With her baby and mother, she made her way to the relative safety of Port Sudan, where she now lives in this tiny apartment. She says her own trauma has spurred her to help others who have suffered similar experiences.
We decided to go to camps for the displaced and check on people who had problems in Khartoum. So I found people who suffered from the death of their parents, brothers, also women who were raped.
Sudan's war has also seen the rape of children as young as 8, according to analysts and media reports. Henry Wilkins, VOA News, Port Sudan, Sudan.
In a bid to showcase South Africa's heritage, mountainous landscapes and cultural diversity, the Limpopo Tourism Agency hosted media personalities from both local and international platforms on an exclusive tourism excursion across the Limpopo province. The tour highlights some of the province's hidden gems and culminates with the historic Mapungubwe Arts Festival. Our South Africa correspondent, Innocent Samusa, has more.
Limpopo province rolled out the red carpet for local and international media personalities, offering a first-hand experience of its unique tourism treasures. The Limpopo excursion kicked off in the Sekhukhune district, introducing participants to fascinating attractions such as the Shoe Museum, the Echo Caves, and the historic Bushman Rock Shelter.
And it's my first time visiting the Limpopo province in this parts of the country. And we had an opportunity to go to the Echo Caves, where we learned about the historical background that made us who we are as modern people. And we can learn a lot from our past in order to shape the future.
The tour then moved to the Mopani district, where visitors explored the renowned Hoedspruit Endangered Species Centers, a hub for wildlife conservation. Vembe district brought history to life with a visit to the Mapungubwe National Park and World Heritage Site. The grand finale, Mapungubwe Arts Festival, was a vibrant celebration. Limpopo Premier Poppy Ramotoba highlights the significance of the Mapungubwe Arts Festival in supporting small and medium enterprises.
For us as a province which is still trying to build its economy, Mapungubwe Festival, we utilize it as another way of promoting tourism. The people who are attending here are not necessarily coming from this area. That is why if you go and look at your lodges, which are affordable, which are owned by a number of SMMEs, they are fully booked, which means they will be able to generate revenue. If you check our restaurants tomorrow, they will be fully booked.
From history to conservation and culture, Limpopo province left an indelible impression on all who attended the media excursion. From Limpopo province, South Africa, Innocent Samusa, Channels Television News.
Africa loses nearly $90 billion annually to financial crimes linked to corruption, tax evasion, environmental crime, and more. But an initiative is training journalists to follow the money and expose how these crimes are connected to other illegal activities. For VOA, Senanu Todd reports from Accra.
Reporter Jessie Olamores prepares for her latest assignment, covering human rights for the media outlet Yen in Ghana. Her coverage on migration, street hawkers, and homelessness helps expose gaps in social policies and inspires advocacy.
I've always wanted to be the voice of the voiceless, speak for people who cannot speak for themselves.
That drive expanded when Olamores joined a training program that introduced her to how cartels, politicians, and businesses move money from illegal activities across borders.
Evading taxes, human trafficking, money laundering, and all of these were issues that were everyday issues. Sometimes you see them and then you just take them as normal things, but they were really things that were hurting the country.
The United Nations estimates Africa loses $88.6 billion a year, or 3.7% of Africa's combined GDP, to the cross-border movement of money linked to illegal activities. These illicit financial flows, or IFFs, come from a range of sources including illegal extraction of resources such as gold, cocoa, timber, and fisheries. IFF expert Bishop Akogo says cartels create ecosystems that fund terrorism, nature crimes, and human rights violations.
They largely would use intimidation, violence, and others to acquire the items. They use, for example, they would child labor to produce some of the items, that they can then ship to other places. They also use bribery and corruption to corrupt the system.
To expose these illicit practices, the Media Foundation for West Africa and the Thomson Reuters Foundation created a training program for journalists. The assignment to follow the money. The program teaches investigative reporting, fact-checking, and how to analyze company records and statements.
The areas of covering illicit financial flows is an area where you are dealing with the wealthy and powerful. And therefore it is important that we will equip you with both the skills and the resilience to be able to cover that subject.
The project has trained over 40 investigative journalists over 2 years. In that time, they have made headlines by uncovering irregularities in government scholarship programs and tax waiver policies. Reporter Jessie Olamori says with her training, she is investigating possible connections between human traffickers and unauthorized foreign currency traders bringing cash across the border.
Nobody checks the source of the money at the borders because they are unapproved routes. So if it's involving human trafficking or any of these illegal activities, nobody knows.
She hopes following the money will help bring criminals to justice. Sana Anutot for VOA News, Accra.
And that's our show for today. You can find all the continent's top news and world news online at voaafrica.com. Check it out. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. Channels Television has our last word.
We look forward to bringing you another show next week. To remember that channelstv.com is your source for news and other programming. I'm Jokia Rogers. Thanks for watching and goodbye.